What's up, everybody? My name is Zach Pasquarello, and I just want to say, yesterday I recorded a 30-minute conversation that I had with somebody who watches my channel, and they actually signed up for a 30-minute consultation. I recorded the whole thing, but I forgot to turn on my microphone. So in this video, I'm going to talk about everything that we talked about yesterday in that 30-minute video, because this person asked a ton of great questions, and it was all about starting a bookkeeping business. So if you are interested in scheduling a consultation with me, you can use the link in the description below. You can schedule a one-on-one meeting with me. We can talk about bookkeeping, your business, QuickBooks, trucking, whatever you want to talk about. And also, I make videos like this every single day. So if you want to follow along and see more videos like this one, subscribe to my channel and like this video. Okay, let's not waste any time. Let's jump right into it. So here is a rundown of what we're going to be talking about today. One of the first questions the person that I talked to yesterday asked me was, when is the best time to start a bookkeeping business? And I've been getting a bunch of questions in the comments, how to do cleanup. So I'm going to talk about that. And then whenever you're giving a quote and you ask for your bank statements, one of the questions he asked yesterday was like, what do you do if they kind of give you pushback, if you're not super confident in the questions that you're asking? What do you do if they don't feel comfortable giving you their bank statements? I'm going to talk about that. Okay, first question, best time to start a bookkeeping business. And I would say there's a quote that I love, and I'm going to use it right now. It's pretty cheesy, but the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is right now. And that is true for a bookkeeping business. The best time to do anything was years ago. That way you could have a bunch of experience right now. But the second best time is to start right now. And if you have not started a bookkeeping business yet, or any business you're thinking about starting, I recommend just get started right now. He was a little bit worried. Because of taxes. Like right now is tax season. So he was worried that if you start a bookkeeping business right now, you might get bombarded with a bunch of tax questions that you don't know how to answer because it's tax season. He was worried that it was like going to be too stressful of a time, but now it's the perfect time to start a bookkeeping business in tax season because so many CPA firms are so busy, they're actually turning away clients. So you can get a lot of bookkeeping clients who are getting rejected by big CPA firms because the CPA firms are swamped with taxes. They just don't have time to do it right now. And lastly, with the timing of everything, it's going to take you 1 to 2 months to get your first client anyway. So you might as well start focusing on marketing and sales and then worry about being able to do the actual bookkeeping once you actually get your first client. There's no point in stressing like, I don't even know how to do bookkeeping, but I don't even have a client, so it doesn't matter. So learn bookkeeping, learn QuickBooks, and simultaneously focus on marketing and sales because it's going to take you 1 to 2 months to get your first bookkeeping client. Okay, one of the biggest questions that I've been getting asked is all about cleanups. How do you do cleanups? Typically, I do my cleanups for an entire year. And tax season is whenever I get the most cleanups because people need to file their taxes. They don't do their bookkeeping all year, and now it's time to do their taxes. The actual process of bookkeeping is the exact same. It's no different. You're just in QuickBooks, in the bank feed, you're categorizing transactions. One thing you do need to make sure is that if the client never had QuickBooks before, you want to make sure one way or another you connect their bank account to their QuickBooks. You can do it one of two ways. You can digitally connect with the username and password of their bank to QuickBooks, and you can reassure them that QuickBooks has the latest and greatest security and all the technology. There's no risk whenever you're connecting the bank account to the QuickBooks bank feed. But if they don't feel comfortable logging in with their username and password into their QuickBooks bank feed, you can manually import the transactions. All you need to do is take an Excel spreadsheet with the long list of transactions for the entire year, and you can manually import those transactions into the QuickBooks bank feed. But please, please, please do not try to do an entire year of bookkeeping manually by individually entering the expenses. It will literally take you forever. You need to use the bank. Whenever you're quoting a cleanup, it's the exact same quote as if a client came to me for monthly bookkeeping. So they need 12 months of bookkeeping. So take the monthly fee, multiply it by 12. So if you charge them $300 a month, multiply that by 12, tell them, hey, it's going to cost $3,600 to do your bookkeeping. I've had a lot of people say, whoa, that's a lot of money, and it is, but all of my other clients are paying that on a monthly basis. So it doesn't really feel as much when you pay it 1 month at a time. But most of these people are desperate. They need to get their taxes filed. Almost all of these people are willing to pay the couple $1,000s to do their bookkeeping. One line I love dropping is, I know it's really expensive, and listen, if you don't want to pay that, then you can just do last year's bookkeeping on your own, and then you can hire me to pick up fresh in 2023. And guess what? They don't want to do their bookkeeping. That's why they're talking to you. So as soon as you get that bug in their mind of doing it themselves, they're going to start thinking about it. Then they're going to logically rationalize through the whole process of, oh, I could do it myself. Oh, but I don't want to, or I don't know how to. There's no way I can do an entire year of bookkeeping. I'd rather pay Zach Pasquarello at Harrisburg Bookkeeping a couple $1,000s to do it for me. Otherwise, it's never going to get done. I'm never going to file my taxes, and the IRS is going to come after me. So you can kind of plant that bug in their head, like, hey, listen, not a big deal. You do it yourself last year, and then I'll start fresh in 2023. Nobody ever does that. Everybody always comes back to me, and they always say, hey, I need you to do my bookkeeping. Here's $3,000. Please just get it done. Okay, so you're going to need all of their bank statements. This goes back to what we just talked about with requesting their bank statements. So before you get started, you need all 12 months of their bank statements. Don't even start doing their bookkeeping until they give you all of the documents that you need up front. Some clients are super unorganized. It might take them weeks to get their bank statements to you, but nothing is more frustrating than you get started on the bookkeeping process, and then halfway through you need all these documents and the client's not responding to you. So just upfront in the beginning, get all of the documents, all of the monthly bank statements, credit card statements, and loan statements. Get all that upfront. It's going to save you a lot of hassle and headache down the road. Payment. So like I said, 12 months of the monthly fee. So you can do one of two things. You can request the full payment up front, which that's a bold move. I do it sometimes. You can treat different clients differently. So whenever you get their bank statement, if you see they have $100 in their bank account, I would probably request that they pay the full price up front, because chances are they might not have $3,000 in a couple months to pay you. So if they seem like they're untrustworthy or not reliable, or they don't have a lot of money, maybe you could request full payment upfront. And if they say no, then you're probably better off not even working with them, because you might do all of their bookkeeping and they might not pay you anyway. So if you don't really trust that they'll pay you in the end, you can request full payment upfront. I do that sometimes, but majority of the time, if I trust the client, if I think they're worth paying me back, then I'll let them pay at least 50% upfront and then 50% when the project is complete. I always at least get 50% up front. Okay, last couple things with the cleanups. They usually take 1 to 2 weeks. So you can kind of guarantee your client, you can reassure your client, hey, I know you're stressed about taxes. I know you want to get this done quickly. As long as you and I communicate, as long as you, the client, get me all the information I need, I can get this done in 7 to 10 days. That usually makes clients super happy, especially in March and April when it's crunch time and they got to get their taxes done. You can reassure them with the caveat, as long as we communicate effectively, I can get your taxes done, I can get your bookkeeping done in 7 to 10 days. Okay, last thing I'll say, inside the bank feed, cleanups are awesome because you can select multiple transactions at the same time. So if your client goes to Home Depot 5 times a week, times 52, they might have over 200 Home Depot transactions. You can select all of those Home Depot transactions and you can categorize them all with the click of a button. So you can select them all. You can update them. You can say the payee was Home Depot, the category was job supplies, and you can accept. And you can add those right to their general ledger. It gets categorized into their bookkeeping. It's so simple to do a cleanup because you can categorize multiple transactions at one time in the bank feed with QuickBooks Online. Okay, so I'm going to actually wrap up this video because it took a lot longer than I thought and my marker is dying. But the last thing that I want to talk about is giving a quote. My marker is almost completely dead. You can probably barely read that, but it says quote. So giving a quote, come on marker, you need 3 months of bank statement. I don't know if you can read that. 3 months bank statement. Now, I touched on this a little bit already. 3 months of bank statements, and some clients are going to give you pushback. And this was one of the first things that the guy asked me yesterday in our phone call, and this is the last thing I'm going to touch on this video, just so it doesn't go too long. But with the 3 months of bank statements, you're going to get a lot of no. You might feel like you're going to get a lot of pushback, but you aren't. I have given quotes to hundreds of business owners, And 98% of them are like, yep, sure, totally, that makes sense. Here's 3 months of my bank statement. If they do give you pushback, here's what I'll tell you. You can give them a couple options. First of all, go into this conversation confidently and say, hey, like, I need your three most recent bank statements, and assume they're going to say, yep, cool, sure, no problem. Go into it confidently, because I can reassure you that 98% of the time they have no issues with it. But if they do give you pushback, here's a couple things that you can do. You can say, okay, if you don't want to email them to me, then you can come to my office and drop them off. If you work in your parents' basement and you have a home office, you can tell the client, like, hey, I work out of my house. I don't usually take in-house meetings, but there's a Starbucks down the road. We can meet at the Starbucks. You can give me a paper copy of your bank statements, and then I can give you a quote from there. They can upload them to their Google Drive or their Dropbox, and they can give you access if they want to feel more secure without emailing the bank statements. They can do it that way. The third and best option is just for them to email you digital copies of the bank statements. If they don't want to do any of that and they already have QuickBooks Online, you might be able to give them a quote with just access to their QuickBooks Online. So tell them that they need to invite you to their QuickBooks Online account and you can have a look. And the whole reason you're doing this is because you need to assess the size and complexity of their business so that you can give them an exact quote. It's just like a general contractor coming over to your house and you say, hey, I need my living room painted. They're going to need to see the size of the living room before they give you a quote. You need to see the size and complexity of the business and their financials and their transactions before you give them a quote. And with all of that being said, if they still say, no, I'm not inviting you to my QuickBooks, I'm not giving you my bank statements, this might not be the best client to work with, but the final option, just so you can potentially give them a quote, you can say, okay, here's what I can do. So my average client pays me $300 a month, and you can still use this information even if you don't have any clients. Like, use this information for me, just be confident, act like you have 2 or 3 clients. I would never lie to a client, but I would also never tell them you're my very first client. That doesn't make anybody feel good. So don't lie, but don't be so willing to tell them they're your first client. So if they're not giving you their bank statements, if they're not inviting you to the QuickBooks, you can say, okay, my average client pays me $300 a month, so I can give you a rough quote. It's going to be anywhere from $250 probably to $400 per month. Do you want to proceed? And if they want to proceed, then you can say, hey, like, there's a rough quote. Once we start working together, I'll give you an exact quote. And no matter what, in the end, in order to do their bookkeeping, you're going to need their bank statements eventually. That's why people are usually just willing to give you their bank statements for the quote. But if they're not going to do that, give them a rough quote and then finally get their bank statements once you start working with them.